Psalms chapter 67. I don't know if it's just because I'm getting older, my kids. I find myself now pausing and thinking about just the blessings that the Lord has blessed us with. Just think in your own heart right now, maybe with a pen and paper, just to begin to write down a few things that you would say, these are blessings from God. Simple things. The bed you slept in last night. The water that you took a shower with this morning. The food that you ate for breakfast this morning. The car that you rode into church this morning. The table that you and your family will sit around this afternoon for lunch. The air that you are breathing. The travel that you will take this week, the job that you will go to tomorrow, the school that your kids attend, the jacket that you will wear this winter. Little things that God has richly poured out on us. Blessings upon blessings that don't come from other places, but come from the hand of God. And I just want to take a few minutes this morning, and I want us to study Psalms chapter 67. And there are three aspects to this psalm that I just want us to pause and think through. It's a psalm couched in the middle of declaring the mighty acts of God. Psalm 66, praise for God's mighty acts. Psalm 67, all people will praise God. Psalm 68, God's majestic power. Psalm after psalm after psalm, declaring the praise of God. And then you come to Psalm chapter 67. The first thing I want us to see in the text this morning is the request. Psalm chapter 67, verse 1. May God be gracious to us and bless us, and make his face shine upon us. The psalmist in this moment of prayer, and I would just believe rejoicing and gratitude, praise to the Lord, and declares in this moment, God. In all three of these areas, God's graciousness, God's blessing, and his face shine upon us, the subject is God. The blessings of our lives do not come from our talents or our abilities. The blessings of God come from the hand of God. And he says first, may God be gracious to us. The reality is not a single person in this room or on this planet deserves the blessings of God. You know and I know that we have sin in our heart. We are sinners. We have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. We sin when we wake up. We sin when we go to sleep. We sin throughout the day. The thoughts that we have, the words that we speak, the heart attitude that we harbor, we are sinful people. And in this moment in the text, the psalmist just cries out and says, God, would you be gracious to us? Think through the times in your life where God has just richly poured out grace onto you in your life, where God has just abundantly come alongside in the midst of the circumstances of your life and has just been graceful to you. So he says, God, would you just be gracious to us? And in this moment, does it say, God, I deserve all of this? I demand all of this? I expect all of this? No, it's just, God, would you just be gracious to us in this humble spirit? The second, he says, we're not just gracious to us, but would you bless us? Would you bless us in our lives? In the context of this passage of Scripture, you'd say, is the psalmist here saying, God, would you bless us in financial or material things, or would you bless us in spiritual sense? And reading through the Psalms, I would say yes to both of those. Yes, from a physical standpoint, he says in verse 6, the earth has produced its harvest. God, our God, blesses us. And so, yes, there's this physical blessing here, God, the blessings that God has blessed us with, but then also in the spiritual sense, which you get to in just a little bit, but it's just this declaration of, God, would you be gracious to us? And God, would you bless us? And then he says in the third part here, would you make your face shine upon us? What an incredible request. God, would you show your glory on us? Would you allow us to see your glory in our homes? Would you allow us to see your glory in our work, in our gathering together, in our worship time, in our community, and around the country, around the world? God, would you make your face shine upon us? You know where this comes from, right? Numbers chapter 6, verse 24 and 26. This is the high priestly prayer. Blessing, he says this, may the Lord bless you and protect you. May the Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. May the Lord look with favor on you and give you peace. This would be a priest. So in the Old Testament, you come, and the priest would bless you, and this would be the blessing that they would pray over you. And so now the psalmist is just reciting this prayer back. God, would you please bless? Would you show grace to us? Would you make your face shine upon us? You may be thinking, man, this is awfully kind of self-centered prayer, but you have the request, but why does the psalmist ask this? Verse 2. So that your way may be known on earth, your salvation among all nations. Did you notice, grammatically speaking, there is no punctuation from the end of verse 1 to the beginning of verse 2. There's no comma, there's no period. Verse 1 is an incomplete thought. Verse 2 completes the thought. May God be gracious to us and bless us. May he make his face shine upon us so that. In fact, I would say that of all the words in Psalm chapter 67, as important as they are, the two words so that are probably the most important words. It's not this self-centered prayer of, God, I need your grace. God, I want your blessings. Make your face shine on me so that I look good in my community, that will look good in a convention, that will look good in my work or in my school. But it's this reason and this reason only. God, would you richly bless us? Would you be gracious to us? Would you make your face shine on us so that your way may be known upon earth, that your salvation among all nations. I mean, think about this for just a second. Of all the blessings that God has blessed you with you in your life, your job, your career, your business, your clothes, everything that God has richly blessed you with, the sole purpose of those blessings, scripturally speaking, is this, so that God may be known on earth and salvation among all nations. What happens in our own individual hearts, what happens in the life of our church when we begin to pivot away from seeing the blessings of our lives for us to consume and rather see them as a blessing for us to advance the gospel? So that we begin to see God as he pours out blessings on us, that we begin to see opportunities and avenues to declare his glory among the nations. So that we begin to think, you know what? The breath that I have is not for just me. Like, I'm not breathing right now just for me. God, would you be gracious to us? Would you bless us? Would you make your face shine upon us in the breath that you've given so that we can declare your glory among the nations and salvation among the people? What about your job? When you go to work in the morning, I got to make another deal. I got to complete another project. My boss is on my back. I got to finish this. I don't like this. But what happens if you wake up in the morning and the alarm goes off and you put your feet on the ground and you say to yourself, God, thank you for my job. Would you allow it to be used as an opportunity to make you known and salvation known among the nations? What if you woke up in the morning and you were like, I do not want to go to school today? I don't know about you at your house, but like we have to like waterboard, throw electric. Well, we have to drag people out of bed in the mornings. Like nobody wants to go to bed at night, and nobody wants to wake up in the morning. But what if our children? What if our students? What if the kids within our church begin to be taught at home? Begin to be taught in our churches that the school you go to, the kids that you sit beside in your class, the kids that you play with on playgrounds, the kids that you're in band with, that you play football with, that you are in basketball with, that you're in drama with, what if we begin to see that as an opportunity, not as a chore, I got to go to church, but to begin to view this as this? God, you placed me in this context, at this place, in this school, so that I can make you known on earth and I can make salvation known among the nations. What if you begin to view your talents as that? Like some in this room have the ability to sing, and some of this in this room have the ability to organize. You have the ability to paint. You have the ability to build things. You have the ability to put things together. You have the ability and talents that God has richly blessed on you. But what if you begin to view those talents as this? Maybe God's blessed you with the ability to do X so that Christ could be known on earth and salvation among the nations. I mean, just think about the talents and abilities that God's given you. Public speaking, teaching, singing, organization, leading this, doing that. What if we begin to see our income? God is blessed so that we may make known on earth and salvation among the nations. God is blessed so that you may make known and salvation among the nations. What about your retirement? I've worked for a long time. And I'm just going to hang out and retire. But what would happen in your house if you and your wife said, you know what? We're retired. God has blessed us. And so we're going to use this time as an opportunity to make God known on the earth and salvation among the nations. A month ago, I had a conversation with a man who does not attend our church. He was on the verge of retirement. So what are you going to do when you retire? He said, my wife and I have worked hard our whole life. So what are you going to do? You going to go hang out? He said, this is what we're going to do. For 10 months, we're going to stay and minister in our community. And then we're going to take 2 months of our retirement, and we're going to go around the world, and we're going to minister to missionaries, and we're going to take care of people, and we're going to camp in an area, and we're going to help reach people with the gospel. And I thought, what an amazing thought. You've worked, God has blessed in all of these years, and now retirement has come, and you would look to your spouse, your husband or wife, and say, now's the time for us to go to the nations. Now's the time for us to go on mission trips. We never could do it when we were working. We never could do it when we had kids at home, but now we can. Let's go. Let's advance and do this, that God is richly blessed so that we may make known Christ on earth and salvation among the nations. What about your time? And how much time do we waste on video games and mindless activities? Scrolling this, checking this, updating that. But how much time do you have in your life where God has given you an extra few minutes here, an extra few minutes there? What about this? What about your kids? What if we begin to see our kids, those little babies that we hold, those children that we send off to kindergarten, those kids that go to junior high and high school, what if we begin to see them? God has been gracious to us. He has blessed us. He's made his face shine upon us. So I have 1 kid, 2 kids, 3 kids, 4 kids, more kids. And I begin to see this. God, you have given me this child. God, would you use this child as an opportunity to advance your name among the nations, that you would make your salvation known among the earth? What about your grandkids? And we can sit here and list off thing after thing after thing after thing. Here, I just say this to you. Every blessing that you and I have been given by God should be, must be used as a declaration of his glory among all people. Here's what David Platt says. God blesses his people for the sake of his praise among all people. God blesses your work for the sake of his praise among all people. God blesses you with children for the sake of his praise among all people. God blesses you with X. God blesses you with Y for his praise among all people. Just begin to think through that. God has blessed me with this, make his praise known among all people. And so as you begin to think this week through Thanksgiving, as you sit down with your family, as you begin to carve your turkey, your ham, or your mashed potatoes, your green beans, or whatever else you have, as you begin to think through all of the blessings that God's blessed you with, he's blessed his people for his praise among all the people. He said, well, I don't know about that. I would stand before you today as your pastor and say this. God has blessed us richly at Second Baptist Jacksonville to advance the gospel in Jacksonville to Japan from Little Rock to Lithuania, from Conway to Cambodia, from Russellville to Russia, from Bryant to Bangladesh, from Pine Bluff to Peru, from the uttermost parts of the earth. We have been blessed so richly here at our church, but it's not for us. It is for the advancement of the gospel to the nations around the world. In fact, go to the text. You're like, you're crazy. Okay, stay with me. The result, verses 3 through 7. 7 times, underline it in your Bible. Let the peoples praise you, God. Let the peoples praise you. Let the nations rejoice and shout for joy. For you judge the peoples with fairness, and you lead the nations on earth. Let the peoples praise you, God. Let the peoples praise you. This is in one verse. Here's what happens. God, would you be gracious to us? God, would you make your face shine upon us? God, would you bless us? So that then we can be a blessing and advancement of the gospel to other people in other nations. Then, as a result, those people become worshipers of God. They become declarations of the glory of God. Would the peoples praise you? Now, we know this in the language of the Old Testament, particularly in the language of the New Testament. The word peoples here is where we would get our word ethnos from, all ethnicities. That all the ethnicities in which God has placed on this earth, whether it's 12 to 16,000 people around the world, that the peoples would praise God. So, just put it together. God, would you bless 2nd Baptist Jacksonville? Would you be gracious to 2nd Baptist Jacksonville? Would you make your face shine upon 2nd Baptist Jacksonville? Not for us, but so that we can declare your glory, that the peoples would praise you, that the peoples would praise you. In fact, go back to verses 3 through 5 and 6 and 7 and just notice 7 different times this word praise, shout, joy, rejoice. Let the peoples praise you, God. Let all the peoples praise you. Let the nations rejoice and shout for joy. For you judge the peoples with fairness and lead the nations on earth. Let the peoples praise you, God. Let all the peoples praise you. The earth has produced its harvest. God, our God, will bless us. God will bless us, and all the ends of the earth will fear him. And then I walked into the sanctuary this morning and I looked at this stage. And I thought for a minute, how many, possibly thousands of people represented on this stage, from families that receive bags, families that are ministered to and cared for tonight, families that receive shoe boxes. How many people who receive all of these things around the world in our community will have an opportunity to rejoice and praise in the glory of God? How many people in Eleuthera today, Haitian refugees, whose lives have been impacted by missionary trips that we've sent down there, will declare the glory of God? How many kids in a malnutrition center in will declare the greatness and the glory of God? How many kids who've attended our vacation Bible school, mission trips that we've taken to St. Louis, the Baptist Children's Home, the football team that we've ministered to? You can list them all out and just stop and think, God, thank you for the blessings. Thank you for how you've shined upon us. Thank you for the grace that you've richly poured out on us. Now, God, would you take those from us and give, as we give them back to you, and let them be used to declare your glory in the city of Jacksonville and around the world? So I'd end with this question today before we press on. Take some time this week and ask yourself this question. How has God blessed you? And how am I using that to declare his glory among the nations? So don't spend Thanksgiving this year and sit around your table and say, God, thank you for this. I'm thankful for this. Thank you for this blessing. Thank you for this blessing. But take it a step further and say this. God, you've blessed me this. Now, how am I using that to declare his glory among the nations? God, you've blessed me with this career. You've blessed me with this school. You've blessed me with whatever it is. Thank you for these blessings, but I don't want to stop there. I want to ask this question. How am I using it to declare his glory among the nations? How am I using the blessings that God's blessed me to declare the glory among Jacksonville, to declare the glory of Pulaski County, the state of Arkansas, North America, and the world? So don't just stop this year at Thanksgiving. I'm asking you, don't just stop this year at Thanksgiving and say, God, thank you for all the blessings I have in my life, but ask yourself this question. Am I using those blessings to advance God's glory around the world? Am I using those blessings to advance his glory around the world? I want you to hear.